Hello and welcome to my Serum tutorial series. Today we're going to be going over oscillators. They're a type of sound source within Serum. You have 4 different sound sources within Serum. So we got our sub, which is here. You got noise. You got oscillator A. And then you got oscillator B here. So those sound the same right now, but you can change them to any type of waveform here. So Serum is a wavetable synthesizer, so you can get a lot of movement with Serum, and I'll be showing you that in this tutorial. But before we get into that, I'll go into more detail about how the oscillators work. We got octave right here, so that just controls what octave it's at. So I'll be playing C here. If I go up the octave, it plays the next C above that C, and plus 2, it'll go the C above that C, etc. So a cool thing to do. I'm going to teach you more about LFOs later, but for now I'm going to just drag this on, and you can do this too. You just take the LFO here, click on it, drag it up to the octave here. What this does is it's going to create some movement between the octaves. So if you see down at the bottom here, this is your minimum, this is your maximum, and this is back down to your minimum again. So that's the path that it's going to take, and it's just going to keep repeating that path over and over again. If you look up here, this blue line up here, that denotes, and I'll zoom in on that, that denotes your minimum and your maximum. So the beginning of this blue line is your minimum, the far end is your maximum. So that directly relates to what you got going down here. So now if I play something, it's going to move at a quarter note, since the rate here is at quarter note, and that's the same as your metronome. So if I play the metronome right here, if you don't have it on, you can click right up here, turn it on, and then you can change the volume of it right here. So that's the speed of the metronome. This is going to be the exact same speed since it's on quarter note. So you can hear how it repeats back to the beginning every time the quarter note hits. So yeah, and all I did was drag that from there to there. That's it, and then you can shape it. You can shape it any way you want. This is an LFO, so you can shape that, bring this down, change the ramp. You can do all kinds of different things. You can create new points and shape it however you want. And let's play it back again, see what that sounds like. Maybe drag that down. It's kind of got a Nintendo sound there. So I'll go ahead and bring this back to what it was. So if you want to scroll through different types of LFOs here, you can easily do that if you just click here, and we can go through all these different ones here. You can also create your own. I have some created there. It's very easy to create. What I created there, I can just click on save shape there, save it whatever name I want, and then I can easily pull it up with any preset. So it's very easy to use. We're going to go back to the original we had, which was a triangle. So that's there. And yeah, so it's still on there. What I'm going to do now is going to remove it. So to remove it, all we got to do is go up to the oscillator section up here. You can see that this one's modulated because it's got the blue line. So you just right click on it and remove the modulator. Alright, so now we're going to move over to semitones. So semitones is basically if you hit a note on a keyboard, and I'll go down to the keyboard there. So if I hit a note here, it's a C. If I go up the next note, C sharp, I can continue to go up. Each one of those is a semitone. So if I go up to a semitone up here, and I'm going to hit the same key, I'm just hitting C. So I'll start here. hear it's doing the same thing, but I'm not changing the note that I'm hitting. So that might be self-explanatory, but figured I'd go through it. And then you have fine here. So basically in one semitone, you got 100 cents. So this is like a more like micro pitch changing option here. So if I hit a note, you might be able to hear how that changed there. But if you want to go in between semitones and get something tuned maybe to a specific instrument that's out of tune, then you can do that. You can also use an LFO on it as well to get a little bit of movement. And usually you don't want it too far, because if I have it too far, it's gonna kind of sounds like Pac-Man or something. So what we want to do, we're actually going to make this smaller. So what you want to do is hold on to Option on your keyboard, and then drag down on this parameter, and it's not going to change your the level that it's at, the cent that it's at, but it's going to change the minimum and maximum. So now instead of going from minus 100 to plus 100, if I put it say at 10, yeah, here's 10, then it should go from minus 10 cents to plus 10 cents. So now if I hit it, it's not going to move nearly as much. It's barely even noticeable. But it just gives it a little bit of movement. And once again, if you wanted to, you could change the rate here to make it move faster or slower. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. So once again, I go up to the oscillator and I go remove. I'm just going to go remove modulator LFO1. So I'll remove that. Great. And now from there, we got our coarse pitch here. So this is contrary to the fine, this is the exact opposite. So this one moves in like major amounts. So if I hit a note here, just hitting a G, hitting a G. So that's that. All right, so now what we're gonna wanna do is drag this LFO up to the top here, coarse pitch. We'll zoom in on that. So we have a bipolar LFO here, meaning it's centered around that white line right, or that white dot. So that's basically what that signifies. If you hit Option Shift, then you can switch it to a unipolar LFO, and you'll see now the white dot's at the beginning. So basically that just means that you know exactly where the minimum and maximum are, and you can drag that around and move it around. If we shift option click again, we'll go back to the bipolar, and we can center right on that middle dot there. But what we want to do, we're going to shift option click again, get the unipolar, bring it back to 0 here. So you got the two lines on the course here. And what we're going to do, we're going to create a sweep. So what we want to do is click here and drag this over so we have a ramp up. And then we're going to want to change the rate to about 8 bars, so we have a long sweep. And we're going to want to change the LFO mode here to trigger. So that means every time we hit a note, it starts right at the beginning. So I'll demonstrate that quickly. If I hit a note, see the blue line, let go. If I hit the note again, it starts right at the beginning. That won't happen with off. So for a sweep, we definitely want that for this particular sweep. And so I'll hold it longer so you get the idea, and I'll start at a lower octave. From this point of the video onward, we're going to continue to go through all the different parameters within the oscillator section. And while we do that, we're actually going to make the sweep more and more complex and interesting. Back to the oscillator. Now we're going to start messing around with this stuff in here. So this unison here, this is pretty important if you want to create a wider sound. Basically, it gives you more voices, as it says, creates multiple voices for oscillator A on a single MIDI note. So if we move this up, we can visually see there how it's creating more and more voices. If you have odd numbers, that's good if you still want to be able to just have it as like a mono signal, or more mono than stereo, because you have that yellow one up the middle. Whereas if, say, it's on 4, then you have 2 up the middle. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a second here. So basically, if you have it on 4 and we change the blend here, then it's going to be a stereo signal regardless, because regardless of how much I move the blend, even if I have it here, say, you're still going to have the 2 that are next to each other. So I don't know if that's a good description yet, but basically if we have it on 5, say, now you can see there's 1 up the middle and there's 4 on the side. So if I hit play right now, it's going to sound more or less like the same sound we had. But if I move this up and I blend those other voices in more, it's going to give it more of a wider sound. So you can hear that already sounds a little bit cooler. You can, with detune, you can change the amount of separation that you have between each of the voices. So you can detune them more, you can tune them a crazy amount, which probably won't sound very tonal, but we can bring this down, find the exact amount you want, maybe something like that. There's a certain point where it starts to sound a little out of pitch. Right there is probably fine, something like that. And you can move this up to how many voices? 16 voices, so you can get all kinds of different voices. And that's just on oscillator A. You can also get another 16 on oscillator B. So we'll just leave it at 5 for now. The phase, that changes the phase point at which it starts. It can sometimes be hard to kind of hear the difference here. And random means that it might start at one position, but then every note after is going to start at a different random position. And you can control how far the random stretches. So like you see the highlighted yellow box there, it's not going to move outside of those of that area. So if I have it set there, it's going to go like between there and there, as you can see on the random. So the phase is just going to move between there and there. So right now I'm just going to have random at nothing, so I know where it starts, and I'll put phase back to where it was at. So to do that with any of these parameters, if I right click this here and I hit reset control, that'll bring it back. Alright, so now that we've dealt with that, we're going to go to wavetable position. This one's a fun one. If you notice, it actually isn't doing anything right now, but that's because a wavetable is considered a set of single cycle waveforms, and right now we only have one single cycle waveform. So since we don't have a set, I'm not scrolling through any of the other wavetables. So this is kind of what makes Serum powerful, and when it first came out, it was, I'm not sure if it was the only wavetable synthesizer, but it was one of the only wavetable synthesizers. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create our own wavetable, and by doing that we can create many different wavetables, and I'll show you how here in a second. So we're going to click on this icon up here. Alright, so this is the oscillator A table edit. We've got a sawtooth waveform here. Right now our grid size is 8 horizontal, 8 vertical. So every shape that we place in is going to be snap to that grid. So I'll just put in some lines here. You can see I got a ramp up here, so you can throw that in there. Ramp down, a little sine wave pattern there. There's a valley, a hill, and you got this and you got that. So those are your different shapes. You can throw something in there, play it. Of course, we got the sweep up still in, so you'll hear that pitch up, but the actual sound itself is changing. You can hear how that it kind of pitched it up a little bit, or made it sound like a higher pitch with that pattern change I just did. This allows you to connect the beginning of this to the beginning of the next one. So you see that, put it up to the top there. This one will bring it up there. Just basically connects everything. Wow. As you can see behind here, that really cut out the highs. So we're really just getting lows in there, like below 1K. And a little bit more now. So that really made a pretty drastic change. You can, if I hold and drag this, on this one, this makes the lines, now it smoothens them out. So whereas this one, you know, kind of made a triangle type shape, this one smooths everything out, more sine-like. So what we got here, we can basically retain the shape that's in the grid, but we can move it up and down. All right. And this basically creates noise, and yeah, you'll see it just kind of creates noise there. It's a more complex sound. All right, so we got this. This will be our first shape. We're going to want to click this plus button, and that's going to be able to create another waveform so that we can cycle through different waveforms within our wave set, our wavetable set. So I'll click on this. Let's go ahead and make it, I guess. We'll just go with silence there, so single silence, and now you got nothing. And then we'll just build from there. So I'm going to do something different on this one. I'll show you a feature that I didn't show you just a moment ago. So if we bring this down to 0, both the horizontal and the vertical, now I can start to draw a line. Well, I need to have one of these patterns on. So now I can start to draw lines. Just draw your own little shape in there. See what it sounds like. If you want it to be louder, you can make them higher deeps and higher valleys and hills. And then from there, I'm just going to add some noise. So I'm going to bring this back up to 8 like it was in the last one. 8 and 8. And then we'll just throw in some noise there. All right. So now with these two, now I can actually create 256 waveforms out of just these two by having it blend from this first one into the second one. Basically having a transition from there, like almost like a picture book animation where you flip through it. It's gonna go from this one to this one and take 256 different waveforms to get from one to the other. So we're gonna go into morph and click crossfade. Now you see 256 there. So now it's gonna go through 256 different waveforms to reach to go from one to the second waveform. Now that we have a wavetable set up, we can actually move between all the 256 different positions. So if I scroll up here, you can kind of see it visualized here. So if If I hold this note down, you can see how that changes the noise as I pull it up and down. So where we're gonna want to go from here is take this LFO2, attach it to your wavetable position as it goes back and forth from min to max at the rate of a quarter note. So every quarter note, if you listen with the metronome, you can hear how this wavetable position is moving to the beat of the metronome. So what we want, we actually don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click BPM here. And now you can change the rate at which it occurs smoothly rather than at a specific time division. So we're going to want to bring it way down to say 0.04 hertz. And that's going to be the starting position. So that's really slow, as you can see. But we're going to speed that up with our envelope. So this is where it kind of gets fun. So I'm going to click on envelope 2 here. Bring that down to the rate. Since it's a sweep and it's like a very long sweep, we're going to click on this magnifying glass and click and drag up. Now you see it's 12 seconds long. So if I move across the attack, let's move it to about 6.5 seconds, something like that is fine. And then we're going to decay and bring down the sustain and actually make the decay very long. So I'll make it like that, I suppose. So what that is going to do is it's going to start at 0.004 hertz. So that's an incredibly slow rate. The lower the hertz, the slower the rate. So it's going to start here and it's going to move all the way up to the maximum amount of hertz. It's going to be incredibly fast. It's going to do that in 6.5 seconds. So once that finishes, it's going to slowly decay down to the sustain level and then stay there. So it's at about 50%, so it's about halfway between this min and that max. So let's play it and we'll see what kind of effect that gives us. It should give us a kind of speeding up effect and give it a little bit more action. So you get where I'm going with that. And we can even bring it down the octave and play it. That's very cool. Let's try even down another octave. Nice. So I like those two octaves. I might like the other one more, but it's really all down to preference, right? You can kind of see what's going on there, though. Once again, we're going from the bottom here, which is 0.004 hertz, moving all the way up to max, which, as you can see, is this full blue line. So that would be 100 hertz. So that's a long ways. I'll get back to that again. And it does that in 6.5 seconds. So the faster the rate, the faster this is going to go back and forth. The wavetable is going to move from the first waveform to the 256 waveform, and it's going to do that faster and faster and faster. Now that you have a better idea of what wavetables are and how to map them in different ways, we're going to move on to warp mode. And we're not going to go through all these. I'm actually just going to go through one of them for now. If you go down to FM from B, FM stands for frequency modulation, and oscillator B in this instance is going to act as a carrier, and it's going to modulate oscillator A. So we're not actually going to hear oscillator B, but we are going to hear what it sounds like when it's mixed in with oscillator A. So you'll have oscillator B on, level all the way down, and then as you pull this FM from B up, you're going to hear it change pretty drastically. It's going to change oscillator A pretty drastically. You hear that's pretty drastic. So you probably don't, maybe you don't want to go all the way up. Maybe you just want to go part way up. So we could do that, you know, with another LFO. Let's take this LFO 3 here, and we'll bring it, let's bring it back, I guess, to, we've been using triangles, so let's use a triangle. And we'll just connect that over to FM from B. Now that we've dragged the LFO onto FM from B, we're going to want to option click and drag down. This is going to make it so that it only moves between this section and this section. So our min and max are that and that. We'll bring the rate down. I don't know, let's go 2 bars, maybe try that. Can't say I like it too much, but it's a pretty cool sound nonetheless. I can see how you might be able to work it in and make it sound better. Right there. I like that more. It's a little bit more subtle. You can play around with that as you like. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you can use. So we got pan. That's going to pan left and right. Nothing too wild about that. And then you got your level. And that's just your volume of the oscillator. Now that we've created a suite, we can click save at the top here. You can just save this as wavetable suite. Press enter. There you see it saved as wavetable suite. And now we can put in our name here to say that we're the ones who made it. And you can see if you scroll over this, the creator of this preset. So that's what that box indicates. And this box indicates the description. So for now, I'm just going to put in suite. But you can be more descriptive if you like. And now we can easily find it by clicking on the top here, going to user, and going down to our wavetable suite. And it's the exact same as we had it. So that's the oscillator section. The next section we're going to go over will be the LFO section. So you already know a lot that we went over in this tutorial about that, but there's a little bit more you can also do. And then after that, we'll go over the filter section. So that's also another very important section, shaping the frequency of the sound that we're listening to.